The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Amy, are we to start now?
Yes, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Alex Hall with United Properties, and I'd like to welcome everyone for joining this evening and spending time with us. We have a short presentation where we're going to be, I will walk through kind of an overview of the projected senior living project that we're proposing here. And then two of our team members, Tom Klein, will be walking through the site and landscaping. And then Nathan Roseman with Roseman Associates will spend some time walking through the architecture. And then we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. My name is Amy Johnson. I'm senior planner and the main point of contact at the city for this project. Before we get into presentations, I would like to go over some general etiquette. The city is just facilitating this meeting, but it is required for the applicant after the first round of review, and I will show you the review process later. In the meantime, if you decide to comment or ask questions, please keep any comments or questions courteous. Those comments and questions that you decide to enter into the box, and there will be instructions on the next slide, will be read aloud with your name after the applicant's presentation. Please keep your questions and comments relevant to this application being considered. If you have questions or comments that do not pertain to it, please email planning@cityofwestminster.us, the email address there, and you will be put into contact with the appropriate staff related to your questions or comments. For additional information regarding the city's social media commenting policy, please visit the webpage as listed there. And please note, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the city's YouTube channel at this link. So if you know of anyone who may want to look at this after the fact, please share this link with them, and you can come back within about 3 days, I think at most, and view it there. If you have a question or comment for either city staff or the applicant team, you may type it into the question box or chat box throughout the presentation. When entering a question or comment, please remember to stay on topic. Please be mindful your questions and comments will be read aloud with your name after the presentation and included in the recorded video, which will be on YouTube. If time allows, after text questions and comments are addressed, we will open the meeting to live speakers. And if you would like to state your question or comment orally, please type, "I would like to speak," and a staff member will let you know if or when you may speak. And now I will turn it over to Alex, the contact with the applicant team again.
Thank you, Amy. Just like to walk through the agenda for this evening. We've gone through the welcome and overview for asking the questions. We're going to give a brief presentation of the project, and then we'll walk through the city review, that process, questions and answers, and then next steps after that, as well as contact information. Probably slide 7 would be a good slide to move to next. Perfect. The site. So just a little background on us, United Properties. We are a development real estate company. We've been in business actually since 1916, and we have offices in Minneapolis as well as Denver and Austin, Texas. My group works specifically on senior housing. We've got 3 types of senior housing that we develop. One is an independent for sale, and that's the cooperative, senior cooperative model, which we'll discuss this evening. We also do kind of a traditional assisted living memory care model, as well as a 55 plus rental. The site, as we can see on the screen here, is located on the southwest corner of 108th and Wadsworth, and it's approximately 10.7 acres. Slide 9, please, if we could. We'll skip over 8 if we. Okay, so a brief overview of what a cooperative is and some of the amenities and highlights, because many of you probably aren't familiar with senior cooperatives. What we're proposing at this location is a 3-story, 85-unit senior co-op. So it's a relatively, it isn't a particularly dense use. We're looking at approximately 8 homes per acre. And to date, just to give you an idea of how many co-ops we've done, we've developed 17 senior cooperatives, all in the Minneapolis area. And so this would be our first to date in Colorado. We hope the first of many. There are some cooperatives established in the Denver area. I don't know if some of you may be familiar with the Villages. That is a co-op brand. They built their first one several years ago up in Fort Collins, and I think they've developed a few since then. So it is a product that is now in the Colorado market and has been well accepted. A co-op, it is for sale housing, so it's important to distinguish that from rental. In fact, the bylaws prohibit rental. And it's also important to note that there's no services. So many of you are probably familiar with the traditional assisted living memory care, which has a very high staff count, and it does have food service. And so you have quite a bit of traffic, both in terms of staff and trucks and things coming in. And that is not what we're proposing here. So again, this is an independent housing with full kitchens, no services. And the average age here, it's a very active 70-year-old, as opposed to a much older age, typically closer to 85 in an assisted living, that type of senior community. It is also professionally managed. We have extensive common areas. You can get a glimpse of that on the screen here, where we have very large great room, Other common areas include library, craft room, woodworking shop. And so the intent there is to promote a sense of community. And so the folks that live here, they elect their own board and very much watch out for each other. So it is, if you compared it to a typical rental or even a condo, the extensive common areas and management style differentiate it from those products. Down in the garage, we're going to have electric charging stations for electric cars. And there will also be bike storage, maintenance for those bikes, as well as a manual car wash bay. To give you an idea of the home sizes, they'll range from approximately 1,300 square feet on up to 1,800 square feet. And all of those would have at least 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, and as I noted earlier, a full kitchen. Home values will probably be in the range of $500,000 up to over $700,000. And for each home, there will be 1 parking stall located in the garage underneath the building. We'll also provide, as we'll note when we get to the site plan, we've got sufficient surface parking for folks that have second cars as well as visitors. Couple things worth noting, senior cooperatives are very low traffic generators compared to other similar type of communities such as apartment buildings and condos. Senior co-ops generate less than 4 trips per day, and that compares to apartment buildings where it's in excess of 7 trips per day. Even condos are closer to 6 trips per day. But more importantly is the fact that this is a senior community, they're going to avoid rush hour. So we don't see the seniors coming out and adding to those high peak traffic times. And then finally, kind of as it relates to people that live in the area, we have seen that 50% of the occupants or buyers in these communities are normally from 5 miles or closer. So it does address and serve people that have lived in the community. They like the community. They're ready to move from their single family home. They don't want to move far away. And so it's a great option for them to stay close to family and friends, and in turn that ends up freeing up homes for younger families to move into the community. So with that, we're going to move to the site plan slide, and then Tom Klein, who is with TCK, is going to spend a few minutes walking through the site, and then he's going to hand it off to Nathan Roseman, who will talk architecture. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. I am Tom Klein, landscape architect. I've been working on the project for a while. I just want to kind of walk you around the site a little bit. I think that's the best way to understand the landscape concept. So the building is what we're calling the H-shaped building in the center, basically, of the site. You have 108th Avenue to the north and Wadsworth on the right side of the slide to the east. I think if we talk a little bit about the perimeter and then work our way into the site, that maybe is the best way to understand this. To the south is the Walnut Creek open space, and to the west is a drainage way. You can see from the dimensions we've put on the site just how far the building is from the western property, over a football field to the center point. The landscape concept here, the idea is to pull from some of the beauty and the grace and uniqueness of that open space and pull it into the site, and kind of embrace the building in a more natural configuration of shrubs and trees and evergreen plant materials. Along the west, we will establish, again, a variety of evergreen trees, shade trees, shrubs, and ornamental trees along that west property line. So we believe between those plant materials that we've got and the existing fence, and then the dimension between the building and the west property line, that we've established a really good substantial buffer. The perimeter of the site along 108th and Wadsworth establishes with a more standard urban street tree configuration a layered system of planting. So you've got the street trees, behind those are some more ornamental trees, maybe a little bit smaller, and then underneath those trees are clusters of deciduous trees. At the entrances, we'll have annuals and perennials. Along the Wadsworth Parkway side, we are doing, in addition, some berming. So I think that establishes our edge, but it also gives our residents a real foil or buffer between the traffic on the north and the east. As you move into the middle of the site, we have the entrance is off 108th. The road circulates around the building, but it does not connect totally. And the idea is that we need to provide certainly some emergency access in close proximity to the building, but we don't want to cut our residents or guests off from being able to use the connecting trails and move out into the open space. The perimeter drive is the way you would access the underground parking, which is over on the east side. Here it is right there. I think it's important for you to understand that that garage entrance is facing Wadsworth, not west. The drop off is generous, with plenty of plant materials, creating a bit of a buffer between the residents and what's going on in the middle. And then in the Great Lawn area, we've organized the building and the site areas, amenities out on the back to really orient more towards the open space. You can see views from the center piece and the wing on the north and the south are really oriented to pick up some really great views of the Front Range and that open space. On either side of the Great Lawn are smaller little gathering areas with many amenities that we'd be happy to answer any questions you have about that. And I think that's a pretty good overview. And as Alex said, we are here to answer any questions you might have. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to, one other thing, let me mention, I forgot. I think you see all those thin little lines on the north side. Those are contours, and those represent a foot of drop. I think it's important to understand that the entrance to this building on the north side is 11 to 12 feet below the street. And the finished floor of this building the rest of the building is pretty even to the elevations of the development on the west. So this is not sitting on a hill. It's sort of tucked into the side of the land. So it's kind of hunkered down, surrounded by all these trees and shrubs and things. So with that, I'm going to exit and turn off my mic and hand it over to Nathan.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, good evening. Thank you, Tom. So this is Nathan Rose with Roseman Associates Architects. And Amy, if you could go to the next slide there. All right, so the colored units on the right floor plan kind of show the different unit configurations and the quantity of various units that we do have in the building, with the center as the amenities, some of the lobby and library that Alex talked about. This is a 3-story building, so all of the units stack going up. And like Alex said, 85 units, stories, all of them are 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. and you do have a underground parking garage with about 92 cars below that serve all of the residents. And next slide there, Amy. So the building architecture is more of a mountain rustic, kind of meets craftsman. So kind of a blend of some different styles that are compatible with the rest of the surrounding areas and a lot of the natural beauty and oak space that is the site. So there will be cultured stone at the base, and then we move up to a lap site, and then we've got a composition asphalt shingle on the roof. With lots of windows, lots of natural light, taking advantage of the views and also the great Colorado sunlight. So all of the units do have balconies, as you can kind of see on the image. So first floor, second floor balconies, and third floor balconies throughout. The image is the south elevation, kind of that great lawn that Tom was talking about, with a lot of the other amenities facing the southwest. Next slide there, Amy. And then these are just elevations, so straight on views of the proposed building. So again, kind of the materiality of cultured stone, moving to a lap siding. A lot of cultured stone on the columns of the balcony, kind of integrating the balconies into the building in architecture and form, all the way up in terms of that verticality on some of those balcony elements, with a lot of heavy timber on the balconies as well. And a lot of that other craftsman detailing through the corbels and the awnings throughout the project. And next slide, Amy.
And that is it for the architecture.
Perfect. So happy to answer any other questions that you may have.
Before we get to the question and answer portion, I would like to just make you aware of our review process at the city and where this project is at this time. The preliminary development plan application has already been approved by City Council and that was in July of 2021. We have now reviewed one submittal of the official development plan application. That's where we begin to see more of these details in a form that we can review them. And of course, now we are at the neighborhood meeting portion. After this, there will be additional staff reviews as needed. Then we will be taking this as well as a small amendment to the preliminary development plan to both Planning Commission for a recommendation as well as City Council. Assuming that they do approve those plans, then it would move to civil construction drawings and building permits. They would submit all required application materials. There would be additional staff reviews as needed. And if all criteria is met, those would be administratively approved. And of course, that assumes that they comply with any approved plans that there are. I do have the standards of approval in full to refer to as needed, but I won't read through them all here. Section 11.5.15 of the Westminster Municipal Code establishes that several criteria shall be considered in reviews, covering things like parking spaces, stormwater drainage, pedestrian connections, traffic and peak trip accommodations, compatibility of design with the surrounding area, conformance with the comprehensive plan and all city codes and ordinances, as well as consistency with the existing approved preliminary development plan. Ensuring these standards are met does involve reviews by many different members of city staff, and we have some of them here in case they are needed for answering your questions. Okay, now we have reached the question and answer and comment portion. If you have not done so already, you may go ahead and enter a question or comment into the box there as shown. Be mindful your questions and comments will be read aloud with your name and included in the recorded video, which will be posted onto YouTube. If time allows, after text questions and comments are addressed, we will open to live speakers. And if you would like to state your question or comment orally, please type "I would like to speak," and a staff member will let you know if or when you may speak. Oops, I'm going to keep it on that slide for now. And John McConnell, do we have any questions that have been entered?
Okay, there are no questions entered into the chat box at the moment.
All right. We'll give everyone just a couple minutes in case you haven't had a chance to type it in yet. Even if we do not have any questions this evening, you may go back, and this whole recording will be posted onto YouTube within about 3 days at the link, and I can go back to that if needed. If you would like to see that link, please go ahead and type that in the box as well, and I can go back to that slide. And you may also contact either the applicant or myself, and my contact information will be on the last slide before we move on. Okay, I assume we still do not have any questions. I will slowly go through the last 2 slides, and we can always go back to questions if one does arise. So just as a reminder, the next steps after this will be additional staff reviews of the official development plan until we can reach some kind of point where the staff has a recommendation. Then we will present it to Planning Commission for a recommendation, and then City Council. Only if and when City Council approves it will we be going to civil construction drawings and building permits, as I mentioned. And as I said, if you would like to contact me with questions about the review process, what the status is, and so forth, again, I'm Amy Johnson. My email is there, ajohnson@cityofwestminster.us. And my phone number as well, 303-658-2098. You may also follow the project status on the webpage listed here. I'm not going to read that whole thing. Hopefully you can see it. And I guess I will just check one last time if there is anything else.
There are no questions at this point.
Okay, thank you, John. All right, with that, I think we will go ahead and end the presentation, and we thank you all for attending.
Thank you very much.